John Michael Basquiat was an artist whose exemplary and unforgettable pieces serve as an example of emotions as an art tool. His paintings can be described as raw, emotional, and even aggressive. Basquiat was born on December 22, 1960, in Brooklyn to an American-born mother of Puerto Rican descent and to an immigrant father from Haiti. As a young boy, he showed keen interests and talents for the arts, music, and sports. Through his life, he became fluent in English, French, and Spanish. Since he lived in New York, he had a formative exposure to art and often visited exhibitions with his mother. However, by 8 years old, his life began to take a tumultuous turn when he was hit by a car, suffering a broken arm and many internal injuries. As Basquiat was healing, his mother's mental health began to decline, and she was committed to a psychiatric hospital when he was only 13. Living with his dad, Basquiat endured physical abuse from his father and eventually chose to leave home and drop out of school by 17. By this time, he began to cultivate an image in the art world, collaborating with his friends. He used the pen name Samo, standing for Same Old Shit, and went around Lower Manhattan tagging his works on buildings. During these early adult years, Basquiat was frequently homeless and survived by couch crashing and selling drugs. By 1980, he got into a fight with his friend Diaz, and they decided to stop working together, in which the young artist inserted the phrase, "Samo is dead," into the world. However, Samo can still be seen in his later works. 1982 was a formative year for Basquiat, as he started making big connections in the art world. Basquiat was able to put on 6 shows throughout different cities around the world. He became immersed and well known in the downtown scene, which Basquiat criticized for a lack of representation of people of color. His work often featured Black subjects, which reinforced the intellect and passion of their subjects rather than being fixated on the fetishized Black male body. In this year, Basquiat also became friends and collaborated with Andy Warhol. However, Warhol is also criticized for exploiting Basquiat for fame and further exposing the artist to heroin. Basquiat tragically died in 1988 at 27 of a heroin overdose. Basquiat painted Hollywood Africans in 1983 with the purpose of bringing to light the racial and cultural stereotypes of African Americans in the entertainment industry. This piece was inspired by his trip to Los Angeles with his friends Ramelzi, a rap musician, and Toxic, a fellow painter. These 3 are the 3 figures in the painting. Hollywood Africans was painted using acrylic and oil stick on canvas and is notable for its bright yellow background. Rather than using straight lines, Basquiat often paints scribbles, displaying how fast and furious his mind worked. Many of the words on this piece are crossed out, which was a common technique of his that was meant to direct the viewer's attention towards them. Basquiat explained, "I cross out words so you will see them more. The fact that they are obscured makes you want to read them." Other words such as tobacco, sugarcane, buana, and gangsterism are used to refer to stereotypical and racist roles limited to African Americans in the industry. It is also thought that the double use of the word paw, written on the hand, is a way to express the negative connotation of Black individuals seen more as animals than as human. At the top is the title of the artwork, accompanied by the year 1940, which was an important and telling year in American cinema history. In 1940, actor Hattie McDaniel won an Oscar for Best Actress in a supporting role in Gone with the Wind. Even as the first African American to win this award, she was not allowed to attend the ceremony due to segregation and was excluded from participating. Not to mention, her acting role as a mammy displayed to many individuals of color that the only way to succeed was to cater to white audiences in stereotypical roles. Basquiat often displays a duality in his art pieces, as he believed himself to live in 2 separate worlds, as both an insider and outsider. He often defied perceptions of good and evil, and in Hollywood Africans displays both negative and positive stereotypes. To rationalize such a complex world, Basquiat believed opposing forces could coexist by uniting as one. Another American artist, Cindy Sherman, is known for her photographs in which she is always the model. Yet she does not consider her work as self-portraits, and instead uses her body as a medium for a multitude of characters. Sherman was born on January 19, 1954, and studied art in Buffalo in her 20s. Beginning as a painter, she soon became frustrated with this form of artwork as she found it limited her. During her early studies, she was exposed to contemporary and conceptual art, in which she found her medium of photography to best fulfill her artistic needs. In her work, she is able to explore gender and sexuality, often being labeled as a feminist artist. Using her work in a theatrical manner, Sherman does her own costuming, set dressing, photographing, and modeling. In the late 1970s, she began a series of photographs known as the Untitled Film Stills. These black and white photos feature Sherman representing female archetypes. Her next project existed of another series of photographs that she began in 1988, titled History Portraits. History portraits were photographed during her time in Europe, which picture European leading ladies in art history. Included in History Portraits is Untitled number 228. Sherman sets the scene as biblical heroine Judith holding the head of Holofernes. Holding his head in her right hand and the dagger in her left, Judith makes direct eye contact with the viewer. Calling back to Botticelli's 16th century paintings, Judith's head is tilted just like his heroines are. This image is reminiscent of early Renaissance and Baroque paintings, and Sherman's piece, at first glance, looks like a painting as well. On closer look, however, this photo appears to be the setup of a tacky play. Her makeup is thick and dramatic, the curtains are cheap, and Holofernes' head looks like an obvious mask. This is not a painting, but a classic Sherman photograph. The use of color in Untitled 228 is important and distinct. Sherman uses the primary colors red, blue, and yellow with a touch of green. The use of these elementary colors draws in the viewer. Judith is wrapped in red, which is a color of fear and anxiety in Western cultures. In the story of Judith's heroism, she uses her sexuality to trick and kill Holofernes. Powerful and sexually positive women often entice great fear among the American public, and Sherman capitalizes on that. Red is also the color of lust and blood, which may be thought of as themes of contrast. The lights are brightest on the two faces featured in this photo, Judith's and Holofernes. Judith stares directly at the viewer and even looks down upon them as Sherman's work stands over 7 feet tall. The viewer is meant to be both enticed and afraid of Judith's power, celebrating female sexuality. However, even with the story of success for Judith, there are a few unsettling elements Sherman directs to. As the viewer looks down to see Judith standing on grass and flowers, they may realize her feet are very large for her proportional size. Judith's face, due to the specific makeup, makes her seem more like a caricature than a human. Even her expression is ambiguous, so the viewer is left to question Judith's full emotions. Is she even satisfied with her own work?